Hi, I'm Diana. This is a three-part series of the things that we are going to say Bon Voyage to, starting right now. We're not waiting for some magical date in the future where we're going to make a change. We can make a change right now, even if it's one of these things or all of these things. This is part 3, so if you want to watch part 1 or part 2, they'll be linked up above or down below. Here we go. We are saying Bon Voyage to shame. That's a weird way to start a video and kind of heavy. But I think that if there's something you're feeling shame about and it has to do with your own behavior, maybe something that you could have done better or that you hurt someone and you're still holding on to that, apologize. Get it out in the open. Let's solve this. And if it's something that you can't control, like something that happened to you, it's time to let it go. It's time to live the rest of your life. And if you cannot do that, it's definitely time for therapy and self-work because it is not serving you to live with shame. If you are ashamed of something in your current life, then you should maybe try to fix it so you don't have to live in shame anymore. Or you can simply decide to not be ashamed of it. Because if you have people that love you, you are doing something right. The next one is saying Bon Voyage to the all or nothing mindset. You might think to yourself, if I can't clean my whole house, I don't even want to start. Or if I can't sit down and finish that whole job, or if I can't sit down and get a good chunk of it done, then I don't even want to do a bit of it. And I said this in the other video without explaining it, but one of my favorite quotes is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And it's just so true. Sometimes there's not enough time in life and you have to take bites. So I'm going to be saying goodbye to the all or nothing mindset when it comes to cleaning my house. I already said this in the previous video that when I see a piece of junk, I'm going to throw it away immediately. And I'm also going to agree to myself to pick one tiny little bit every day that I can get really clean, whether that's a side table or just a shelf in my bathroom. Just one tiny little bit every day, because it's pretty obvious that I'm not going to get to it all at once. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't work for me. So I'm going to be taking bites of my elephant. We are going to be saying Bon Voyage to being scared of change. Sometimes we Westerners, and maybe when I say sometimes, I mean almost all the time, we like things to stay the same. We like to make things good and comfortable, and then we just hope that it doesn't change. We hope that nothing happens. And if something happens, oh, it's the end of the world. And it's just not possible to stay happy if you're hoping for everything to stay the same, because the nature of life is that it changes. That's the only thing that stays the same, is that life always changes. And if you focus more on that life is always going to change, you're going to find far less unhappiness. That was so negative. Let me turn that around. If you believe more that life is meant to change, you will be much happier. I like to put at least 3 or 4 negatives in every sentence so no one can really suss out what I'm saying. But it always made sense to me that if you believe that things are meant to change, you're more easily able to handle the change. And what if your life did stay the same throughout your entire lifetime? What if you found a good enough spot and it stayed exactly the same? I think it's a little boring. Okay, so speaking of that, we're saying bon voyage to worrying. Worrying about the unknown, worrying about the outcome. Is that the same thing? No, not exactly. No, it's different. We're saying goodbye to worry and fretting. I was told a wonderful story by my friend Helena, who has a podcast and invited me on, and I will link her channel down below. And she grew up in a place where war was coming. And she said everybody around her worried about it and fretted and spent years worrying, but she decided that she wasn't going to worry. And war came anyhow. And I just thought, wow, Even though that wasn't some heartwarming story about some good outcome, she said she was very thankful that she did not spend those 2 years, or I can't remember if she said 1 or 2 years beforehand, fretting and stressing out. She's glad that she enjoyed her life because the outcome was the same. War came anyhow. I'm not saying that that was a great outcome. I'm just saying that use your time wisely. This life is short. You can spend years worrying and fretting, or you can spend those years enjoying yourself because what's going to happen is going to happen, whether that's good or bad. I'm sure there's been times where you worried yourself into the ground and then the thing didn't happen. I know that happens more often than not to me. So we are saying bon voyage to fretting unnecessarily. And the last thing we are saying bon voyage to in this 3-part series is judgment. Judgment, that fun little thing that humans like to do. They like to judge each other. They like to judge themselves. We have shows where people judge each other on singing and cooking. We love to judge. But it doesn't really serve us because we're all in this thing together. Does it help to judge whether someone's life is going well or not? I'm pretty sure that they can judge themselves on their own. And if you're judging yourself far too harshly, if you feel like you're not getting enough done, if you feel like you aren't enough, that you don't have enough, that you're just not doing enough, you might be judging yourself too harshly. And whether you judge yourself or not does not make it happen. If you just walk up to someone at the bus stop and sit down and say, "You're not being enough of this," it doesn't make them more of that. So if you do that to yourself as well, if you look in the mirror and say, "But you're not enough of this," or "You're not enough of this, you're not enough of this or this or this," it doesn't make it any more so. So we are saying bon voyage to harsh judgment of ourselves and others because it doesn't really work anyhow. All right, I hope you enjoyed this little series. Pick one of these things that you need to say goodbye to and tell me what that is in the comments and why. Let's chat. And I'm sure I'll see you soon for something much lighter, like how to style a belt. And I know that's going to trigger some people because you can't wear belts. I know, you've told me. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll do something other than belts. Bye. See you soon.